don't know what they have achieved in terms of employment. Yes, it was a good thing to employ 30,000 people at a go, but it's not something that you can brag on because it's a very minute, it's a drop in the ocean. It's like you get a drop of blood in the ocean and you expect the ocean to turn red. Come on, let's be serious. Governance is a serious issue. It's not child play. The other thing they are boasting about is free education. People of Zambia, let us not be blinded by people who are known to be liars. They are creating a narrative as if they've started free education from grade 1 to grade 12. And yet, grade 1 to grade 7, people were not paying, even under PF. Grade 1 to grade 7 was free education under the previous government. The user fees were from grade 8 to grade 12. So it was a partial introduction of free education because the PF regime had actually provided for free education. And when you look at the number of students who were enjoying free education under the PF, that is from grade 1 to grade 7, were more than those who were in grade 8 to grade 12. You can see that the stream of primary education is 7 different grades, and the stream of secondary is only 5. So they cannot say that they are the ones who have introduced free education in totality. They partially introduced free education, and PF also provided part of that free education. But every time any of them speaks, president, ministers, they are bragging. We have introduced free education. And by the way, if you look at this same free education, it is a disaster in my view. You may have your own reasons to think it's a success, but for me, this thing is a disaster. Nifilabatila fie, umwine wa chisushi, tomfwa uko chisushi chinunka. This so-called free education that have brought about has brought problems in schools. It is just the teachers and the headmasters don't want to be found wanting by stating the truth. One, there are a lot of people in the classrooms. One teacher is teaching about 100 children. And really, how can the quality of education improve if one teacher is teaching 100, in some cases even 120 pupils in one class? And by the way, employing 30,000 teachers against the so many schools that PF built is a drop in the ocean. Because the normal ratio teacher to pupil should just be about, to the most, 30. But now you find that in one classroom, there are over 100 pupils. As a result, the quality of education has been compromised. Secondly, the schools are not being given enough money to run. Under the shared, in fact, it was a shared cost between the parents and the government, because even in those days, government was sending grants to the schools, and schools were collecting user fees to supplement government effort. The daily classified employees like guards, cleaners, sanitary officers were being paid salaries from what was collected as user fees. Today, we don't even know who is taking responsibility of the salaries of this cadre of employees. And in most of the schools, they are not even able now to run mock exams and exams at the end of the term, because the money that is being sent as user fees to these schools is a drop in the ocean. So to keep on bragging against free education, which has brought a very bad quality of education, is also not too good. UPND, you can do better. But the problem, because every time we advise you like this, you don't accept the advice. Allah, governance is a shared responsibility between the opposition and those in government. And when we advise like this, it is only reasonable that those in government heed to the advice. Obviously, advice is there to take or leave, but at least you must sieve and say this advice is worth taking into account. But to just keep on rejecting advice that is coming from the opposition is not too good for the people of Zambia. Therefore, to call for a big celebration in a stadium of 2 years of UPND based on employing 30,000 teachers when the employable age is about 15 million is an insult to the people of Zambia. In some schools in rural areas still, you find that there is one teacher teaching grade 1, 2, 3, and 4. What have you achieved? In some schools, you find that the classroom blocks are very few, such that grade 1, grade 2, grade 3 are in one class, learning from one class. And the same teacher teaching all those grades. Then you boast all the time, Now, President by HH, we have employed 30,000 teachers. We have employed 30,000 teachers. In any case, it is the responsibility of government to employ. You employed these 30,000 teachers because you found the PF had built so many schools such that the demand for teachers was actually higher than the demand before PF built those schools. So who did you expect to employ the teachers that were needed to be in the new schools? So this idea of wanting to base achievements on 30,000 teachers must be trashed. This idea of basing 11,000 health workers must be trashed. If you go to government hospitals today, except the Mahina Soko Military Hospital, that is where I found that at least they've got a reasonable cadre and number of health workers. But all the other hospitals, you'd find in a night shift, there is only one nurse on duty. If you are lucky, there will be 2 nurses on duty in a ward that is full of critical patients. But you find this government is boasting about employing 11,000 teachers. In these hospitals, there are no drugs. Almost everybody who goes to the hospital is given a prescription. But you find Mama Sebolion say, UPND government is doing very well. You see, if you UPND government, you are seeing that you've done very well, I can only equate you to that story, grade 6 story, The Emperor's New Suit, where everybody pretended that the king was dressed, when in actual fact, he was not dressed. Because they said, whoever is not seeing the suit of the chief, then is foolish. And everybody never wanted to be foolish until a young, small kid came and shouted that the king was naked. This is what you are doing. So please, let's concentrate on providing an enabling environment for our people to live better. And by the way, this government is a Wapamwamba government. It's only a government for the rich. It is not a government for the poor. So far, the policies that have been espoused by the UPND government only favor the rich people. The poor people, abantu mumpatamato, balelale nsala. Abantu mu Ron Township, balelale nsala. Abantu kumikonfwa, kumpolokoso, kuchoma, kukalomo, kuiteji, balelale nsala, balefura nokulia 3 meals, iyo mwabalaile. And the reason is very simple. Countrymen and women, hear me out. If we are going to depend on the Western world to tell us what to do, Zambia will never develop. We need to come up with our own homegrown initiatives to administer our resources and to run our governments. Today, the UPND government is in an awkward situation. The reason why the price of mini-meal has gone up, the price of electricity has gone up, the price of fuel has gone up, is simply because the World Bank and the IMF are telling us that don't subsidize, remove subsidies. But extraordinary situations, countrymen and women, cause for extraordinary effort. The same Western world that are telling us that we should not subsidize, they are subsidizing their agriculture. They are subsidizing the energy sector. Today, because of the war in Ukraine, the UK and other European countries are faced with very expensive energy costs, particularly gas. What the UK is doing today is that every household is given £120, plus or minus, to cushion the impact of the high energy costs because of the war in Ukraine. Then they are subsidizing their people so that their people can live well. Then they are telling you, don't subsidize. Bamnina newa UPND nde mweba muli seka seka mufumali lalila. Eno mumfu ikishebane abantu balechu. Despite the fact that the cost of living has gone up 3 times from the time PF left office, there is no corresponding increase in terms of salaries for civil servants, for miners, for guards, etc., etc. The salaries have remained the same, stagnant, and yet the cost of living keeps going up. And then you have the audacity to say you are going to celebrate 2 years of UPND in office. What is there to celebrate? What is there to celebrate? What you need to do is to just the president go on TV and apologize to the people of Zambia that we are sorry, what we promised you is not attainable because we are being controlled by the IMF. There is nothing that we can do unless there is approval from the IMF. We have experienced this before, and even yourselves are able to testify that indeed Zambians are going to be faced with a lot of suffering for a long time to come. Going by what my brother, Minister of Mines, said on Prime TV, that the situation that we are in is like you have a boil and then you squeeze it. During the time that you are squeezing the boil, you have the pain. But after the boil has been squeezed, you will have relief. But how long is that relief going to take? You are simply saying there will be suffering. But you are not telling us for how long that suffering will be. And when the results will be eminent in order to reduce the living, to improve the living standards of our people. Mweba mnyina nemwila mwana abantu kwa tubali tumpa. Ababena Zambia tabatumpa. Abena Zambia bantu abasuma sana. Elonga mwamuna na wekala quiet. Because muletu walanda pufe mwaikata. Walanda pufe mwaikata. Bapingi la fiat tukamona mukabo koshi. Elo, umuntu onso atemo kuichita boast. Lekeni abantu wale ba UPND na babomba. Not team of UPND na praise singers when we have achieved. We have, in fact, President Againde Ichilema has achieved more than expectation. What an insult. What an insult to the people of Zambia. What has President Againde Ichilema achieved apart from employing a minute 30,000 teachers? Apart from employing 11,000 teachers and increasing CDF from 1.6 million to 28 million. And if you go in the townships, we are not saying there is no impact on CDF. Yes, there is an impact. But that impact will not improve the living standards of our people, will not bring the cost of living down. What the people want is a life where they can afford, one, to send their children to school. Because this same free education you are saying is not free. It's not absolutely free. Parents buy uniforms, parents buy shoes, parents buy books. Where are they going to get the money if the price of meal continue escalating, as we have seen in the last 2 years? When President Hakainde Hichilema announced through FRA that they are going to increase the buying cost of maize from the farmers from 180 kwacha per 50 kg bag of maize to 280, I did warn that what the president should have done was just to come up with a mechanism to reduce the cost of production, reduce the cost of fertilizer, so that the farmers can farm at a minimal cost, still maintain the 180 they would have been making enough money. But to increase the price of maize to 280 kwacha per bag, leaving the cost of inputs at the same cost, would simply mean that the price of meal and the price of stock feed will go up. In any case, it is not only the nshima that people are struggling with, it is also chickens, beef, because these are fed from the byproducts of meal. That's where they make chicken feed, animal feed. So it means the cost of all these will go up. But I was ridiculed. Oh, you want the farmers? We care for the farmers. And if you care for the farmers, the best way is to reduce the cost of production, not to increase the cost, the buying of maize. If you reduce the cost of production, it will simply mean, for instance, if to produce one bag, you are spending, for argument's sake, 5,000, and then you reduce, the cost to probably 2,000. You would make more profit at the same selling price of maize to the farmers and the grain, the grain dealers. But if you just leave the cost of inputs very high and the cost of production and increase the cost of buying maize or the selling price of maize, you are actually solving one problem by creating another problem. You cannot resolve one problem by creating another problem. Look at the price of maize today. And I can rest assure you that going towards December, the price of maize will reach 400 kwacha. Because this is the time that Zambians experience cheaper minimum throughout the past years, because people are just now harvesting. But what happens after the harvest period? The price of the bag of meal will be unreachable to the ordinary people, even those who are working. I have said, and I want to say it again, that an average family eats 4 bags of meal per month, of 25 kg bags per month, which means only on meal they will require 1,200. What is the take-home pay for civil servants? What is the take-home pay for guards by Malonda? What is the take-home pay for miners? To be spending only on meal 1,200, and you are bragging, we have achieved, we have worked, let us celebrate. And there is no reason for them to celebrate. And I want to caution you, Zambians. Mailo. Beke sanama basi mkulami senda tieni ku celebration ba mipela na t-shirt. Mukaladi ama t-shirt baka na mpela. Mukamboku li abana if you are not careful. Mwikatila Kambwili. Tale sosa. Even during the elections last time, the previous election, na nimiele that these people are politically impotent. They can't rule because ama policies yabo yakusekesha abawina, te yakusekesha abalanda. And today I am vindicated. I told you at mukachula, mukatila Kambwili wela, it will be too late. You will have 5 years to deal with these people. And today you have a president who can say, you know, the high cost of living because of the policies. He says, no, I don't care. As long as the policies I'm formulating favor the economy. Whether people vote me out, I don't care. Nombo muntunga tale sakamana. Daring you, the people that voted for him. Why should you keep him in status? Coming to the issue of FISIP. I did tell the Zambians during the campaigns that the UPND, one of the policies that they'll bring is that they'll discontinue FISIP. I was ridiculed, insulted. But listen to this. Just 2 weeks ago, the Minister of Agriculture went and told Parliament, we are going to discontinue FISIP. Fertilizer itupela baranda tuleleka. We are going to introduce loans for serious farmers. That was his actual words. We are going to introduce agriculture loans for serious farmers. Who are serious farmers? Imweba na kulubuaria kumpolokoso. Mweba di matulima. Are you a serious farmer? Are you sure that you are going to buy fertilizer at the current cost and produce maize enough to live for household food security and sell some in order for you to survive throughout the year? The question is no. Eno mumone ufiba kwata. I've said niba mapiete, niba puti, niba susula. Vaisaiva, 3-4 days later, after the minister went to Parliament to announce that they are going to discontinue FISIP, dilabaisa unfa hit kubantu. Dilabaisa unfa feedback kubantu. Minister of Commerce, I but no, the minister, I disagree with the Minister of Agriculture. We are not going to stop FISIP. The Minister of Agriculture was wrong. What a government. Policies, before they are taken to Parliament, they are discussed in Cabinet, and Cabinet approves.